I never imagined I'd be telling this story, let alone sharing it with the world. But sometimes life spins you into situations you never saw coming, and they leave such an imprint on your heart and your conscience that staying silent feels heavier than speaking up. My name is Claire. I'm 45 years old, and this is the story of how a single moment inside the walls of my own home unraveled everything. I thought I understood about loyalty, desire, and the boundaries of family. When I married David 5 years ago, I believed I had finally found the man who would bring stability and love into my life. He was older than me, steady in his ways, successful, and charming in that fatherly sort of way that gave me a sense of safety I hadn't felt in years. But marrying him didn't just mean committing to a husband. It also meant stepping into the role of stepmother to his only son, Ethan. Ethan was 20 when I first met him. A tall, quiet young man with his father's sharp jawline, but softer, more thoughtful eyes. He wasn't overly talkative at first, but there was always a warmth about him, a kind of respect that made me feel welcome rather than like an intruder in his life. Over the years, we grew comfortable around each other, though never too close, just enough to share a meal, laugh at the same movie, or talk about his college classes when he felt like opening up. But then something began to change. It wasn't abrupt, not like a sudden twist in a movie. It was gradual, so subtle I didn't notice until it was already too late. It started with glances that lingered a little too long, conversations that carried unspoken weight, and an awareness that seemed to hang in the air whenever we were in the same room. One afternoon, everything shifted. David was away on a work trip, and the house was unusually quiet. I had just come home from running errands when I noticed the bathroom door slightly ajar. Steam curled out into the hallway, and the sound of running water filled the air. At first, I thought nothing of it. But then I heard a noise, something between a sigh and a whisper, and it drew me closer without me realizing what I was doing. I pushed the door open, thinking maybe Ethan had left the shower running, but what I walked into froze me in place. There he was, Ethan, standing in front of the mirror, a towel wrapped loosely around his waist, droplets of water running down his chest. He wasn't expecting anyone, certainly not me. Our eyes met through the reflection, and for a moment, time stood still. I should have looked away. I should have apologized and backed out immediately. But instead, I lingered, caught in the tension of the moment. His gaze didn't shift, and I could feel the air thick with something unspoken. "Sorry," I finally whispered, though my voice betrayed me, softer, shakier than I intended. Ethan didn't move. He just smiled faintly, almost knowingly, and said, "It's okay, Claire." That was the moment I realized there was something alive between us, something neither of us had dared acknowledge until then. I left the bathroom quickly, my heart pounding, my thoughts tangled in guilt and a strange, undeniable thrill. The days that followed were filled with silence, but not the comfortable kind we'd once shared. It was heavy, charged, as if both of us were waiting for the other to make a move, to speak, to break the tension. And then it happened again. I was in the kitchen one evening pouring a glass of wine when Ethan walked in. He stood closer than usual, his presence pulling me in like gravity. He reached past me for a glass, and his hand brushed mine. A spark shot through me, unmistakable, dangerous. We didn't say anything, but the silence between us said more than words ever could. I wrestled with myself for days after that. This was my stepson. I was married to his father. The very idea of crossing that line was unthinkable. And yet, the thought of him lingered in my mind at night, in the quiet moments when no one was around to see. I found myself looking for him, noticing his laugh, the way his eyes softened when he looked at me, the way he seemed to hesitate around me now, as though carrying the same conflict I did. And then came the night that changed everything. David had gone out with friends, leaving me and Ethan alone in the house. I tried to distract myself with a book, but every sound from the hallway pulled my attention. Finally, I heard footsteps approach the living room. Ethan walked in, hesitated, then sat across from me. For a while, neither of us spoke. The silence was unbearable. My chest tightened with every second. Finally, Ethan broke it. "Claire," he said softly, "about the other day." I looked up at him, my heart racing. "We don't need to talk about it," I replied quickly, trying to protect us both from what might spill out, but he shook his head. "I think we do." His eyes locked onto mine, and in them I saw the reflection of everything I'd been feeling: confusion, guilt, but also longing. It was as if the walls I'd built around myself crumbled in that instant. "I don't know what this is," I admitted, my voice trembling, "but it's wrong." "Maybe," he said, "but it doesn't feel wrong when I'm around you." The honesty of his words pierced me. In that moment, the air between us broke, and though I'll spare the details, what followed was a decision that would forever alter the course of my life and my marriage. The days after were a blur of secrecy, guilt, and desire. Every time David was near, I felt the weight of betrayal crushing me. And yet, every time Ethan walked into the room, I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years. I wish I could tell you that I made the right choice, that I found the strength to walk away before things went too far. But the truth is, once a line like that is crossed, there's no going back. The secret grew heavier with time, and eventually it came to light. David found out not through us, but through the small cracks that always appear in lies too big to hide forever. His anger, his heartbreak, his silence, it was unbearable. My marriage ended, as perhaps it should have, and Ethan and I were left standing in the wreckage of what we had created. To this day, I don't know if what happened between us was love, or just the dangerous pull of forbidden desire. What I do know is that it taught me how fragile trust can be, how a single moment can change everything, and how the heart doesn't always follow the rules we wish it would. This isn't a story I'm proud of. It's not one I tell lightly, but it's real, and it happened. And sometimes the truth is stranger and heavier than fiction.